Today we're very pleased to have with us Mr. Ahmed Rashid, who is one of the best-known writers and analysts on Afghanistan, Pakistan, jihadist groups in South and Central Asia. Today he will talk to us about, give us some ideas to understand what ISIS is as a movement and the context of international jihadist movements and its effect on South and East Asia. So how do you see the so-called Islamic State, its appeal, and the threat that it poses to this part of the world?
Well, obviously the Islamic State has tried to penetrate into Pakistan and Afghanistan, but it has not really had much luck so far, and that is partly because both countries have very long-running extremist movements. Afghanistan, of course, has been at war for 35 years, and the idea of global jihad was first promoted by the Afghans in the war against the Soviet Union when they mobilized the Mujahideen. So you've had militant groups spinning off from that, the Taliban and others, who don't want to give up their monopoly of power, political power, money, income, etc. And in Pakistan, we've had up to 50-60 groups which have been operating, anti-Shia, anti-American, anti-Pakistan state, many different kinds of groups scattered all over the country. And thankfully, a lot of these groups have now been put under control, and a lot of their militant members have been killed. But there is still very strong leadership of militancy, which goes back many years. And again, ISIS is having problems. But I must say that all of these groups, whether Afghan or Pakistani, have young dissidents who are fed up with the status quo of militancy and want to try something new. And it's these young people who are joining ISIS.
Well, it's clear that there's a competition between ISIS and al-Qaeda in different conflict scenarios. What are the implications of that competition, and what are also the chances of influencing or doing something about it?
Well, I think what ISIS is offering is now and here. We will build the caliphate. We will question the status quo. We will overthrow regimes and conquer territory. Its appeal to the youth is really based on here and now. We will do everything now. Al-Qaeda is a much more philosophical movement. It poses ideological questions about alternatives to traditional Islam, which of course is very dangerous, but it's quite appealing to many militants. And Al-Qaeda really does not say that we build the caliphate now. It says we wait until we have better control over countries and regions and territories. The appeal of Al-Qaeda has definitely gone down, but I see it coming back now. It's coming back, and ultimately ISIS's appeal will, I think, disintegrate into just terrorism rather than being an ideological movement. Al-Qaeda, which remember has been around for again nearly 30 years, it will remain as the ideological movement of militant Islam.
You've been suggesting for some time that there's a need to talk to some extremist groups or groups that are militant or violent in different places because they need to be taken into account or incorporated in processes to solve problems and wars, such as in Syria. How do you see that happening, and what is preventing that dialogue with some of these militant extremist groups from happening?
Well, I think the Syrian war has obviously gone on far too long. It has been an appalling conflict. It has resulted in the death of 500,000 people and millions of refugees, and there's no end in sight, and nobody is coming up with any kind of solution. So I think it's about time that the big powers, the Americans, the Russians, the Europeans, the Arabs who are involved, accept the fact that there may be groups amongst the extremist militants, like, for example, al-Qaeda in Syria, who want to change. I mean, for example, we have the issue of al-Qaeda in Syria, who are now trying to build a political front. Now, al-Qaeda has never built a political front in all its life. And Osama bin Laden was opposed, because al-Qaeda believes that only the pure and the purest of the good Muslims can become members of al-Qaeda. Now you're talking about broadening in a political front. Secondly, I think they if militant groups are willing to accept the idea of some kind of democracy, protection of the minorities, respect for other religions, etc., this dialogue should be offered them. If they accept those tenets, then they can take part in a peace process. And I think the problem has been that the Americans just automatically reject everyone and put everyone into the box of extremism. Well, I think things are changing. I think in Yemen, for example, we've seen al-Qaeda also take control. They ran this one province of Hadramaut for 1 year. They were trying to implement good governance and things like that. It doesn't mean that they've given up their ideas of terrorism or attacking the United States or anything like that, but it does mean, as far as the local situation is concerned, they should be considered as a player.
Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure having you with us today at Real Instituto Elcano, and we hope to see you again soon with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.